If you look at the all-time top 75, are there some guys in there that wouldn't be able to play in the league today? To suggest that these guys wouldn't be stars today, I think every guy on that list is not just a valuable player in today's NBA. Skill is always going to be the thing that separates it at the top level, and I don't see greater skill in basketball today than I did then. There's no mid-range game in the NBA today. Everything is a dunk, a layup, or a three. Ronnie, in the history of this program, we have seen some hot takes. I mean, we have seen and we have commented on some real whoppers. But brace yourself, buddy. I hope you're sitting down. I know you're sitting down because Stan Van Gundy just came out with one of the hottest hot takes you're ever going to hear. Let's listen.
My son says this all the time about every sport. He's more of a baseball guy, right? He goes, I understand the thought that you compare players to how well they did in the era they played in. But the evolution of athletes is, we can probably say that the best 20 basketball players in history have probably played in the last 20 years, Zach. Those other guys are great, but if you took them for what they were in their time and dropped them in today's game, a lot of those guys couldn't even get in the league. And I'm talking about some guys who are in the top 75 all time. And I don't say that to disparage people. We evolve over time. Athletes are getting better. How can you look at a sport like track and field or swimming and see that the times keep improving and think in our sport players don't continue to get better and better?
All right, Ron. Let's unpack this, Ron. Stan Van Gundy, who coached with some success, pretty good career record, 13 seasons as a head coach in the NBA, says that probably the 20 best players in the history of the NBA have all played within the last 20 years in the league. Okay, that's one. All right, second part of this, he says some of the players in the all-time top 75 players in league history, which they did the 75th anniversary top 75 team, he says that some of those guys at least wouldn't even be able to play in the league today. Your thoughts?
When did Michael Jordan retire?
2003.
How many years ago was that?
That'd be 22.
So he doesn't make the cut?
You found a hole in his logic. Do you think he's counting Jordan? He's got to be using 20. Are we going to give him, let's assume that he doesn't mean Michael. Because if he doesn't think Michael Jordan's one of the 20 greatest players in the history of the league.
Okay. Is he
I
familiar?
don't even know that this is a conversation worth having.
So is he familiar with Magic Johnson? Is he familiar with Larry Bird? Is he familiar with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Do you want to add a couple?
Have you ever heard of Julius Erving? You know, that's one that I might want to bring up as well. How about Wilt Chamberlain? How about Bill Russell?
I've heard of him. Elgin Baylor?
So you don't think, look, to me, this is, if you look at the all-time top 75, are there some guys in there that wouldn't be able to play in the league today if you just teleported them in? Because the question is always, how do you handle this, right?
Sure.
We talk about it in baseball. There's people that say, well, Babe Ruth couldn't hit a 93-mile-an-hour slider. Well, I'm sure he couldn't if you just brought him in a time machine, because he's never seen anything like that before.
Right.
But maybe give him like a 32-ounce bat rather than that fucking tree that he was carrying up to home plate. He never saw baseballs as clean as what they have now. He never had a batter's eye in center field. He didn't have access to modern training methods. So yeah, if you just pulled him off a train, pulled him off of a hooker in his hotel room, 3 hours before the game and said, here, I want you to go face, fucking Paul Skeens. Yeah, he'd probably have a problem. I'm not going to deny that. But you got to figure out, what are we saying here, right? You've got to give them access, I think, to the same things that players today have, or maybe you don't. Maybe his argument is that if you drop Bob Cousy in the modern NBA from the 1950s that he wouldn't be able to make a team. And if that is the argument, Bob Cousy, who was out there endorsing cigarettes, who's somehow still alive at age 95.
Crazy.
Maybe he wouldn't. So I'm not saying that's a crazy thought, but I think that, once you get past George Mikan and those guys, maybe there's an argument. But by the time you get to the 60s, I want to give you the 1960s All-NBA team, according to ChatGPT.
Oscar Robertson,
okay?
Elgin Baylor, Jerry West.
And the other two are obvious.
Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell.
And Russell. Okay?
Wow, I'm pretty impressed with myself.
I don't think those five guys, there's a role for them in the NBA.
Yes.
If you just pulled them straight out of 1965. Mm-hmm. I believe. These kids today, they're not that great. Yeah, the athleticism is better, but if you ever, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell.
Oh, I'd say more than a
this
role.
whole argument of, they were playing against plumbers. Yeah, fuck you. They weren't playing against plumbers.
Yeah, no.
Those guys
they'd have more than a role
in the league.
They would have more than a role. Those guys would have more than a role. Listen, I get the whole thing, and it does make sense. It's like swimming times have gone down. 100-meter dash times have gone down. How much somebody can, bench press or power lift or whatever, I'm sure has gone up.
Pitchers throw harder. Nolan Ryan could hit 100, and he was a freak, and now every team's got 3 guys in their bullpen that can hit 100. This episode of the Ricky Cobb Show is brought to you by PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, and I hope that you guys will join and have as much fun as I've been having this season. There's a lot to love about PrizePicks. I'll tell you a couple of my favorite things. One is the app is easy to navigate and understand. You sign up, you'll be in there. It makes sense. I don't have time to waste on complicated apps. Neither do you. This is not the case with PrizePicks. Once you are in and you're going through and you're setting lineups and starting to make picks, I'm going to encourage you to enjoy the choice that is afforded to you by PrizePicks. You could do a flex play. A flex play pays out a little bit less, but it allows you to get something wrong and still cash in. So if you're a little bit conservative, you might like the peace of mind that comes with the flex play. If you are wanting to just go for it, then you're going to want to do the power play because you get a big payout when you do that. And if you're confident that you're going to be right in everything, you want the big payout. But either way that you like to roll, PrizePicks has got you covered. Now, they have especially got you covered when it comes to signing up and the bonus that you get. Very simply, sign up for PrizePicks, use my code Ricky, and play a $5 lineup, and you will get $50 in free lineups. It's as simple as that. Simply download the app, use my code Ricky when you sign up, and play one $5 lineup. When you do that, your account will be credited with $50 that you may use to profit and build your PrizePicks bankroll, because at PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And I'm hoping that I'm right this week, because I got an Andrea True connection opposite for you here. Sometimes I like to go more. This week I'm going less and less with 3 quarterbacks. I've got Dak Prescott to come in with less than 275.5 passing yards. Jacoby Brissett less than 261.5. And Quinn Ewers less than 185.5. Yeah, I'm fading these guys, as people sometimes like to say. And I'm of the belief that I'm going to be right at PrizePicks, where it's good to be right.
So there were other athletes that could probably jump higher than Michael Jordan, that were faster than Michael Jordan, but that didn't slow him down, right? So we're not talking about just one immeasurable thing. Like if he wants to have a conversation about, can the basketball players of today jump higher than the basketball players back then? I'd go, yeah, probably. With a few exceptions, you'd be right, Stan. There aren't very many that could outjump these guys, but that's not what sports are, right? Sports are the intangibles and so many other things. So for him to say that is just an absolutely ridiculous statement.
And And Ron, how about this? How about when those guys get here and they're like, oh, you can't hand check me?
Right.
Oh, I don't have to dribble. I just have to dribble like once in a while.
Right. A couple times. Wait, traveling's allowed?
I mean,
cool.
I could dribble 2 times from the 3-point line to the basket on the other end. I mean, I
can
shuffle
Giannis
my
take
feet
8
fucking
backwards
steps.
and then take a jump shot to create space. I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not minimize the fact that the old timers were actually playing by the rules of basketball as Dr. James Naismith envisioned it. It wasn't this glorified whatever the fuck it is now. And they also possess skills that guys today I don't think have as much of. There's no mid-range game in the NBA today. Everything is a dunk, a layup, or a three. And the assumption is like, well, that's just the efficient way to play basketball. And I understand all the numbers geeks that it is, that 3 is more than 2. And obviously, if you can shoot 40% from 3, that's the equivalent of shooting 60% from 2. I get why it has evolved that way, but I think that these guys, let's go back to the 70s. Clyde Frazier, Jerry West again. He was so good, he's on 2-decade teams. Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 80s, Magic, Isaiah Thomas, Bird, Jabbar, McHale, Charles Barkley, John Stockton, Scottie Pippen, Karl Malone, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson. I mean, let's go down the line.
Wait, Hakeem couldn't play now? Really?
Well, according to Stan Van Gundy, he's not one of the top 20 players. Now, he's not saying that these guys couldn't be in the league. He's just saying that
I know.
they got to get in line behind, the modern dudes. So
listen, it's a hot
take, but
it's a super flawed take.
A little too high.
I think it's a super flawed take because he's basing it off of athletic ability, right? So the first name that came to my mind when we started this conversation was somebody that came into the league. He got nicknamed Baby Jordan, Harold Miner. What did he do? He wasn't going to be as good as Michael Jordan because he was Baby Jordan. He didn't do anything, Ricky, but he had the eye test said, oh my gosh, this guy can do things athletically that nobody else can do. But that's not what a sport like basketball only is. It's not just athletic ability. I have been paying a tiny bit of attention to what's going on in the NBA right now. Con Knipple, who, if you look at him, he's not this great athlete that you just look at and go, oh my gosh, his athleticism is through the roof. That dude is blowing the NBA up right now because he is a great basketball player. He's not some sick athlete. He's a basketball player. So Stan is sadly mistaken with his comment.
You said nipple as well. Let's take a look real quickly. Let's take a look real quickly at my all-time top 10 NBA players, Ron. A little reminder of what I did earlier this year. And that's a great graphic, by the way. Shout out to the graphics.
Nice 70s flair to it.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's Family Feud almost there a little bit. But there's my team. And you will notice the only one of those guys, 2 guys who have played in the last 20 years on that list. And Kobe's career began outside of the 20-year window. So the only guy who's played and not even LeBron's entire career has come
he's 2003.
within the last 20 years. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, to suggest that these guys wouldn't be stars today, I think every guy on that list is not just a valuable player in today's NBA. I
just keep looking at your number 10.
Good now.
I just look at your number 10. Can you imagine with his athleticism and his skill? Olajuwon would tear
the dream shake
up
wouldn't
right
work now against these.
He would tear
NPCs
up the NBA.
That every NBA team just runs out a gaggle of 6'8" guys that all look alike and they all have the same game.
Yeah. No,
they're like stormtroopers.
Yeah.
They're I don't see the uniqueness. Tim Duncan, as you said, going back to your point, Ron, they called him the big fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, skill is always going to be the thing that separates it at the top level. And I don't see greater skill in basketball today than I did then. Now, Ball handling, do you see more spectacular things? Yes,
Sure.
but I also see more loose play. I see more sloppy play. I see more careless play than I used to see in the old days. And so I don't think it's just as simple as a trade-off of greater athleticism somehow means that past players are not as relevant. Although I will go so far as to say that Bob Weiss, God bless him, might not have a role in the NBA of 2025. As I've tweeted many times, I like the NBA better when every team had a guy who looked like a dad who was turning up the intensity in a driveway basketball game with his 15-year-old teenage son. Not today, Junior. Not today. It was a long day at the office. He did a lot of accounting. He did a lot of people's taxes. But not on this early April day, Bob Jr. Not today.
You know, based on Gundy's line of thinking, I bet he thinks that Anthony Richardson is a better quarterback than Joe Montana. Right? Based off of how he's thinking. He's a better athlete. He can do things that Joe Montana couldn't even dream of.
The athletes are so much better. Joe, would he say that John Unitas couldn't play in today's NFL? Would the argument be that Johnny Unitas, there would be no role for him in the league today? Look, I look at it in terms of heavyweight boxing, right? Every other division, you can kind of compare apples to apples. You can look at Floyd Mayweather or you can look at Terrence Crawford and you can start to try to compare them to Sugar Ray Leonard or Marvin Hagler or, whomever the great is that you want to have a fantasy matchup. At the heavyweight level, it's obviously a lot different. Rocky Marciano, he fought I believe he weighed in the high 180s sometimes when he was a heavyweight champ. He was coming in below the cruiserweight limit as the heavyweight champion. So if you put Rocky Marciano up against a modern heavyweight champion, Lennox Lewis, Tyson Fury, just name one of these behemoths that has had the championship. The argument plays better for me because size at a certain point can become a huge differential. But I will also point out to you, the current heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk, he's the same size as Muhammad Ali. If you look at his height and his weight, he's out there 60 years after Ali won the title, and he's the same size that Muhammad Ali was. So to me, if you move Muhammad Ali from then until now, if Alexander Usyk can beat Tyson Fury twice, I have no doubt that Muhammad Ali wouldn't have had any problem with him either.